Hi everybody, I hope you're having a great day. In this video I'm going to be covering The Question. Now, he made his very first appearance in Charlton Comics' Blue Beetle, issue number 1, that was released in June of 1967. His backstory is a bit convoluted and has been changed a couple of times without a true proper transition in the retcon. Yet he's still a very intriguing character, and I'll be covering just a bit of his old version, which for some may be his most well-known iteration, and then I'll mainly address his most current iteration. Now, traditionally he's gone by the name Charles Victor Szasz, not to be confused with the villainous Zaz, as well as going by the alias Victor Sage, which of course you know I like that last name. This version also had ties with the superhero teams Law and the Justice League of America, although after his death he briefly appeared in the Black Lantern Corps. Both iterations of The Question have the same physical stats, standing about 6 feet 2 inches tall and weighing 185 pounds, having blue eyes and strawberry blonde hair. And although his first version had no true superhuman abilities, he did have a genius-level intellect that was characterized by him being a bit unpredictable in the way he thinks, as well as being a bit brutal in his tactics. He's also arguably the second best detective in the world, right after Batman, and he's used his expertise in journalism, interrogation, disguise, and philosophy to weed out the bad guys wherever they are. He also is a master at intimidation and has an indomitable will, which comes in handy with his rough lifestyle. Additionally, he has very advanced hand-to-hand combat skills, being almost as acrobatic as individuals like Nightwing, while being a master at martial arts, particularly the dragon-style kung fu. And except for a little bit of dabbling in shamanism, The Question initially didn't have any formidable magical abilities. However, his most current iteration boasts immortality, teleportation, shape-shifting, mental influence over others, and a host of various other magical abilities, such as calling forth the powerful Spear of Inquisition out of the ether. And it's readily assumed that this individual still has all of the basic human properties that the initial one had, but now you just add all of these more OP abilities to those. Oh, and the newest one has no known name or history as of yet. Now, basically, the initial Question, Victor Sage, grew up as a bit of a troublemaker who yet had a very solid moral foundation. Even as he grew older into college and gained more knowledge and intellect, he still held on to his brawling tendencies. He would ultimately become a heroic crusading reporter who would dominate the mean night streets of Hub City, taking on corruption and crime while donning a prototype artificial skin known as a Pseudoderm, which could effectively hide his identity when placed over his face. There would even be a brief period when a Gotham City police detective named Renee Montoya would become The Question. However, Victor Sage would pass on due to lung cancer. Now, the more powerful and mysterious new Question is well known for being a part of the Trinity of Sin, being Phantom Stranger, Pandora, and he himself. And what we do know about his origin is that at some point in antiquity, he was called before something called the Council of Eternity to answer for his sins, right alongside Pandora and the man who would become Phantom Stranger. Now, The Question made the mistake of questioning the Council's authority, and his punishment was having his identity and his face magically erased. We then jump to current times and see that he's still somewhat of a loose cannon and unpredictable like his initial iteration, not fully being trustworthy and at some point seeming more like an anti-hero or even having a hint of villainy. At one point he would try to take possession of Pandora's box, hoping that it would answer the question of his identity, but that effort failed. He would later attempt to actually kill the Phantom Stranger, but then would flip-flop and ally himself with him, along with Pandora, which constituted the aforementioned Trinity of Sin. They would go on to have many different adventures, but at one subsequent point, he would be tortured by the magical being known as Nimra as part of her effort to bring back Dark Earth by using the ritual power of the Trinity's sins. At this juncture, The Question would betray Pandora and Phantom Stranger, causing them to all be imprisoned on Dark Earth. But, staying true to his erratic form, he would atone for that by leading the Trinity's escape, but then he'd turn right around and attack his so-called partners again, trying to absorb their portions of Dark Earth's sin energy for himself. Once this was done, he'd vanish and remain elusive ever since. Now, For his powers and abilities and his influence on the DC universe, for my 1 to 10 rating, I'll give the question questionably a 6, which is an expert rating. I hope everyone enjoyed this video. I'll talk to you next time. Be sure to like, subscribe, and join the new Sage.